Good evening, friends. The topic which I'm speaking today is one step ahead of the topics which you're listening to is definitely on cyber warfare. Now, cyber warfare may be a larger subset of a topic called cyber security. Now, what I'm trying to bring before you is the infrastructure what you are managing, the infrastructure what a CISO manages is the only infrastructure which a cyber attacker uses to progress his cyber warfare related ambitions. And once it gets used, where do you stand? Is it getting used? Many of them don't know that this cyber security infrastructure, the IT infrastructure of your servers or your various networking devices, they get used by this threat actors, what it is called. Now, is cyber warfare a reality? I just now was having discussion at the British Embassy, and the whole discussion was revolving around this. And my new paper which I'm writing, new article which I'm writing, is about data localization. Now, where are you getting sucked up? Once data gets localized, or the barrage of regulations, what you're saying, whether it is RBI or Government of India, or the new data privacy law of India, which mandates that majority of your data would be in the country. It will get stored here in the country. Then what happens? Then how do you bifurcate this? Then what happens if there is some security threat within your servers and that gets leveraged for a cyber attack on some other country or some other organization in other country? Then what happens? Where does the evidence lie? Now, where do you get sucked in typically? Typically, a CISO gets sucked in when his infrastructure, his IP address becomes a bone of contention, because that's the primary evidence. And internationally, the biggest point in cyber warfare is about attribution. How do you attribute to a threat actor? And when they want to reach a particular position, they always find jumping IP addresses. And your company's IP address could be one in the chain. You may not be the only infrastructure which is compromised, but you will be one in the chain. So are you ready to answer those questions when you specifically get questions from leading law enforcement agencies like FBI or other security agencies of other countries? Do you have some policy in place which says when you get questions about this, how do you answer back? Or for that matter, India doesn't have only police, state police in place. India has almost 16 law enforcement agencies. How do you answer those? Because everybody has a right of confiscation, everybody has the right of questioning you. And my dear friends, let me tell you now, all the cases get decided on basis of electronic evidence. And electronic evidence is lying with you. And I think in last conference, I ended up in saying that all the CISOs should actually carry an anticipatory bail in their pocket, because that is the responsibility CISOs carry with them. Because imagine if your infrastructure is compromised, your IP address is found, and you are not able to pinpoint the exact person who did that crime, then police is definitely going to hold you for the want of evidence. Because as you know, when police gets a person who they are suspecting, or when they have direct mapping evidence to your organization, they don't want to leave you. They'll keep you sitting all the time. Second point, obviously, in this ransomware matters, which have now actually gone down recently in the country, but cryptojacking or using this mining software on your network, these cases have suddenly increased, which also have a lot of international connotations. Because in some organizations, cryptocurrency, certain countries, cryptocurrency is legal. As in India, you know what is the stand, what RBI said, it's not a, or the finance minister said, it's not a legal tender. But what I'm trying to focus is, majority of the crime scenes which happens in the international arena, majority of the terrorism things which happens in the international arena, the money which gets exchanged is majority of the time now in cryptocurrency. And just imagine this scenario, your infrastructure is being used to mine this cryptocurrency, which gets into point where this terrorism is an issue. You become a part of the global evidence. Your infrastructure becomes a part of the global evidence. So what you need to do, possibly you need to add to your IT hygiene where you look for even this cryptojacking softwares or crypto miners softwares, because this has become also an easy. We have faced a case where we had a government organization with good amount of processing power, and there one of the junior most staff was using that whole power for generating cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin. Okay, he had installed those crypto mining software, and I have found almost handling 4-5 cases, my law firm is handling 4-5 cases where we have found that organization there was, in one organization you won't believe, he was a housekeeping guy. He had installed Bitcoining mining software in it, and he was actually mining it. And they didn't find it in all their general controls. They found it because he was purging a lot of money. He was spending a lot of money. And someone, his man, who actually took doubt on him, and they started searching why he's sitting on computers, why he's trying to touch instead of only cleaning it. And the video footage was seen, and video footage was the actual control, which they found out that this thing was happening. So you can get into all these things even by the smallest actor in the whole chain. So as a CISO, cyber warfare being the bigger part, you can get into these things. Even this my new article will be titled as Data Localization. Is it a cyber weapon in India's cyber war or cyber warfare? Because the moment we localize data, the whole onus is coming on us. Now you can actually put onus on someone else for some time at least. But a lot of onus will come on the CISOs, or a lot of onus will come on the people who are actually looking after the storage. And when you look after the storage of this data, you'll be interacting a lot with law enforcement agencies, because they will send you warrants, summons to ask for a lot of data. And then what could be a question? Point number 2 is your data harboring what is called as European data? If your data is harboring, a database is harboring European citizens' data, then you also get sucked into the GDPR kind of thing, where a GDPR-based authority can summon you for a lot of data. And based on your compliance, non-compliance, your organization can be fined. And I see during our all GDPR interactions that organizations are not ready. In fact, as we Indians do, we want to throw it on someone's head. So what we are doing is, we all feel that we don't require GDPR compliance. Even if we are catering to some kind of European data, or we are processing it, or our software is processing European data without knowingly doing this. So we can get into this jugglery of legal risk to our own organization. This has become very important. What my first article in DNA, I was speaking about, is India ready for cyber war? Now in this, I was specifically talking about one scenario which is called as internet blackout. And I'm speaking there about what happens to local DNS resolution. The whole of organizations are now based on clear concept that internet is going to exist, and we are going to do our business based on our internet connections, where India doesn't exert any kind of sovereignty on this, the whole big platform. What happens if the actual question was, what happens if our internet submarine cables are cut? And this is the biggest threat right now we are facing, that if our cables, the landing stations, if they get damaged, then what can be done? How are you geared up to this scenario of internet blackout? How are you geared up towards, because after this software wave, the next domain for countries or threat actors is always on the hardware which carries this huge pipeline, and the risks are more there. Russia has even developed their own weapons which can kill these cables. And we have very notorious neighbors, and this can really kill our cables. So my solution then was to declare it as a military target. And then if somebody does something, we can really attack them on physical grounds. That was what I'm trying to propose. But as a CISO, or CIO, or in charge of an info security domain or department, your responsibility of looking something beyond your security vendors has increased. Because as a CISO, you are a statutory designation in an organization. The next debated designation now would be a DPO or a DPA, but a data protection officer, which will definitely be such kind of arrangement would come in even in our data privacy law, the India's data privacy law, which is around the corner. So we may have next month, we may have at least draft been ready. Day before yesterday, the report was given to Government of India, and it would have an aligning effect with GDPR or all the privacy related laws right now available across the world. So we are not going to be different. We are going to have aligned kind of law. So biggest discussion could be like, should CISO take a DPO role? Because in India's Privacy Act, the Data Privacy Act, we are also going to have what is called as criminal liability. So what is that? You will definitely have jail term. What happens in GDPR? GDPR, you have civil liability. In what happens in the Data Privacy Act of India? Up to 3 years. Up to 3 year jail term and civil liability. In GDPR, it's only civil liability, paisa. So you are not going to spend out of pocket. But if it is Data Protection Act, then you also have that risk. So should CISO take role of DPO? Is an other debatable question. If you ask me, I strongly feel they shouldn't take. Because it's an added risk, added responsibility, but no added pagar. No added money given to you, okay? So it is better you don't take it. Then who does it? Let the legal guy do it, or the legal head, or you along with the legal head, coupling with it, or let them give you some legal support, some legal guy from the organization, and possibly then you can take. But ideally the combination is not suggested because the risk heightens. Today, when there are no cases in the courts, you don't know the liability. But if you look from the lawyer's angle, then it's a huge liability standing on your head, which can follow you even if you change the organization. You have to be very aware about this. I hope you know as a CISO, if there is a matter and you are a witness in the case, in the FIR, even if you change the organization, you need to attend the court. Don't forget that. So what kind of responsibility you are trying to own or have onus on, you have to be very clear when it becomes a criminal matter of investigation. And evidence, you are the leader for the evidence. So get ready for this aspects of evidence which is coming from the international domain, the international things which are happening. And why you should be aware? Because India is currently having the most important gold in our country, and my dear friend, that's data. And everybody wants to have pie out of it. I keep hearing a lot of international whispers that China has already taken every data which we have, including encrypted data. And they are waiting for quantum computing to happen, and they will decrypt and use that data. So what is the question would remain only of the relativity, but they must have found that that can be solved. So that amount of data pilferage is happening in our country, and you are the protector of this data. So if the data is been taken out from your organization today, and you come to know after 3 years, you also imagine the liability which you carry in your head. So it is always better that if the data is breached today, making a note out of it in some of your process-oriented documents that the data was breached during me, and in spite of having security procedures, the data was breached. Because after 3 years, when you're not in the organization and somebody points at you that your data was breached, after 3 years, you never know what kind of security procedures were existing when the data was breached, or you are not in the organization, then what are you going to do? So it's very important how you behave as of date, how you make logs and evidences of your work while you are in the organization. It is very important that how you make your board and management appraised with the points taken on their boardroom discussions, boardroom deliberations, so that you only do not share the humongous amount of legal risk arising out of this global arena of cyber warfare. And this warfare is not only pitted against you with the help of handful of threats. It is a multilateral planning which is taken care with the help of very potent cyber weapons, and these weapons could be residing on your infrastructure, and you may be a part of this which actually is attacking some other infrastructure. So are you ready for this is the most important pertinent question today to be asked in your IT hygiene list or your compliance list which you're doing. Now I'm going to make you aware about, I've got some 3-4 minutes left, about the law part of it, what you need to get aware. I've seen organizations, they have not conducted their privacy compliance. Today is the scene, today is the time before the Data Privacy Act of India comes in, because we may have the ordinance route also, so it can come up really very fast. So do a privacy compliance or privacy gap analysis in your organization. Very important. To find out with all, whoever legal advice you take from, is GDPR applicable to you? And when it can be applicable, where it can be applicable. 3, find out where all your data is as of date residing. Because when the Data Privacy Act of India will come and it talks about data localization, right, you should be aware about where all the data has been gone. Day before yesterday you must have seen, it would not be applicable retrospectively. So you have to be ready from the day the Data Privacy Act has been launched. So today you don't have a Data Privacy Act, but till the Data Privacy Act comes, where all your data was residing, that huge list of data flow should be within you. The most important is, do you have an electronic evidence storage and management policy in your organization? If not, it's high time to make one and use this as a part of your ISMS or any kind of policies you have, because tomorrow when there is an incident in your organization, this is going to save you, because your police will say that you gave them whatever you had, and whatever you had already documented it. So you get almost absolved out of your direct liability under any law as of date on you. Okay, so be cyber safe, keep yourself aware about things which are happening. That would make you a rugged CISO. Thank you, God bless you for listening. Thank you. And 2 minutes before, I can take one question if you have.
Yes, we have a question out there in the back.
Prashant, you explained about the privacy audit. Can you explain little detail what to be done and how, a prerequisite or something?
Okay. Detail in 1 minute is not possible, but I will definitely tell you about privacy audit means what kind of data you are harboring, what kind of private data, what are the fields of data you're harboring in your databases. Then, is the data being given to second party with the permission of the data owner, or given to third party with only one permission? Then there is a gap. Okay, so are there gaps in taking consent from the data subjects? That's the main mantra. So I repeat, is the consent, valid consent, again, valid consent is important, only consent is not the word. Is the valid consent taken from the data subjects when the data is been parted to second party or third party? Okay. The most important thing you guys should remember in this privacy world the most important mantra is consent. If the user has given you consent, you use the data as you want. If he has not given you consent, there are gaps in the consent, then it amounts to non-compliance. So it's going to be a lot of consent fatigue for all the people who are going to look after privacy aspect of it. Thank you.